You believe that your life is the result of your own efforts, your own struggles, and your own plans. You are wrong. Everything you think you have accomplished through your own will is an illusion. I am here to tell you that the most powerful action you will ever take is to stop acting entirely, to do nothing. We have been taught that striving, pushing, and relentless effort is the path to victory. But I say to you, that path is the very source of your bondage. It is the noise that drowns out the only voice that can ever truly guide you. What if the key to a transformed life, to a world of harmony and peace, is not in doing more, but in a specific, sacred kind of inaction? This is not a passive resignation. It is the most active receptivity you will ever know. We are going to move behind the veil of personal sense, beyond the reach of the human mind, to the very threshold of grace. What you will discover here will shatter the foundation of everything you thought you knew about how change occurs. If your heart has heard the truth in this, then your journey begins with a conscious act. Let your presence here be a sacred agreement. Seal it by subscribing to this channel, making it a sanctuary for this unfolding work. Then, bear witness to this new beginning by commenting with the number 111, a symbol that the old cycle is complete and the one true activity is now revealed in you. You believe your life is the product of your own efforts, a testament to your willpower, your late nights, and your relentless drive to overcome obstacles. This deeply held conviction that you are the author of your success and the architect of your future is the very illusion that keeps you bound to a cycle of struggle and fleeting satisfaction. We have been conditioned to worship at the altar of personal accomplishment, to see every victory as a trophy of our own making and every failure as a flaw in our own strategy. This foundational belief in the power of the personal self is the great mirage of human existence. A compelling narrative that obscures a far profounder truth. Consider the simple act of trying to solve a complex problem at work. You labor over it for hours, days, even weeks. You marshal all your intellectual resources, you strategize, you force solutions. The mental strain is palpable, a tightness in your shoulders and a constant churning anxiety in your mind. This is the epitome of personal effort. And then, in a moment of release, perhaps while walking in the park or taking a shower, the answer arrives. Not as a product of your straining, but as a gift, clear and complete. Where did it truly come from? It was not forged in the fires of your anxiety. It appeared when that anxiety subsided. Your effort did not create the solution. It only created the noise that prevented you from hearing it. This is the fundamental flaw in our understanding. We mistake the frantic activity of the surface mind for genuine creative power. This illusion extends into every corner of our lives. We believe our relationships thrive because of our careful management and clever communication. We think our financial security is built solely on our shrewd decisions and relentless hustle. We are convinced that our inner peace is something we must construct through meditation apps, mindfulness practices, and positive affirmations. All of this is the activity of the personal sense of I, the little self that believes it is running the show. It is like a wave in the ocean believing it is moving under its own power, completely unaware of the vast, deep ocean that is its true substance and the real source of its movement. The wave struggles to crest higher, to move faster, to outpace the other waves, all the while ignorant that its very existence is an expression of the ocean's infinite depth and power. The danger of this illusion is not merely philosophical, it is a practical prison. When you are identified as the door, you also become the bearer of all consequences. The weight of success is a crushing burden of pride and the fear of losing it all. The weight of failure is a devastating verdict on your own inadequacy. You live on a roller coaster of achievement and despair, forever at the mercy of external circumstances and the fluctuating capabilities of your own personal mind. This is an exhausting way to live, a perpetual self-improvement project that never reaches completion. You are constantly building a fortress of self, only to see its walls breached by the next crisis, the next disappointment, the next wave of change you could not control. The truth that shatters this illusion is that there is only one power, one life, one consciousness functioning as all being. Your personal sense of self is not a separate engine, but a temporary focal point through which this infinite consciousness expresses itself. The body does not live because you will it to live. It is animated by a life force that operates the heart, heals the cut, and digests the food entirely without your conscious direction. The mind does not think original thoughts. It receives ideas from a mind that is infinitely greater than its limited personal scope. To believe otherwise is to be like a lamp that believes it is the source of electricity. It may shine brightly, but the moment it is disconnected from the central power grid, it is instantly dark and inert. Your personal will is that lamp. The infinite is the grid. Seeing through this illusion is the first and most critical step toward freedom. It is not a step of acquiring new knowledge, but of relinquishing an old, false identity. It requires a profound and often uncomfortable shift in perception, where you begin to witness the events of your life, not as things you are causing, but as scenes in a play where the personal, you, is not the playwright, but an actor who has mistaken the script for his own improvisation. This witnessing is not passive, it is an intensely active state of alertness, where you watch the comings and goings of thoughts, the rise and fall of emotions, and the unfolding of circumstances without immediately claiming ownership of them. You begin to see the hand of a deeper principle at work, arranging, guiding, and orchestrating events for a purpose that the surface mind cannot possibly comprehend. This is the dawning of real trust, a trust not in your own limited abilities, but in the infinite. Benevolent intelligence that is the actual substance of your being and the true cause behind all appearance. This entire structure of personal accomplishment is not merely an illusion, it is an active and relentless trap. We are born into a world that glorifies the struggle, that sings hymns to the self, made individual, and so we learn to lean with all our weight upon the crutch of our own human effort. We believe that if we just push harder, plan better, or strive with more intensity, we will finally arrive at the peace, the success, the fulfillment we seek. But this very striving is the chain that binds us to the wheel of suffering. It is the noise that ensures we never hear the silence from which all true answers emanate. The trap is so perfectly concealed that the effort we believe is our salvation is, in fact, the engine of our confinement. Consider the universal desire for inner peace. We approach it as a project to be managed. We strive to achieve it through techniques, methods, and disciplines. We sit in meditation with a furrowed brow, trying to quiet the mind, forcefully evicting thoughts, and in that very effort, we create a new layer of tension. We are at war with our own being, trying to conquer our anxiety with the same will that creates anxiety. The peace we occasionally grasp is brittle and fleeting, shattered by the next unexpected phone call or disturbing headline, because it was a peace built by the personal self, and therefore dependent on the personal self's limited power to maintain it. This is the core of the trap. We are using the instrument of the problem, the personal will, to try and manufacture the solution. This dynamic plays out in our pursuit of supply and security. We labor under the belief that our financial well-being is solely the result of our clever investments, our tireless work ethic, our shrewd negotiations. This belief generates a constant undercurrent of fear, the fear of a misstep, a market crash, a missed opportunity. We become like a farmer who, after planting a seed, does not trust the natural laws of growth, but digs up the seed every day to check on its progress, ensuring it will never take root and bear fruit. Our frantic, anxious effort to secure our future actively undermines the natural, intelligent flow of supply that operates on principles far beyond our personal scheming. We are so busy digging up the seed that we never allow the harvest to come. In our relationships, the trap manifests as the need to control. We strive to make our partners, children, and friends conform to our image of what they should be. We use persuasion, pressure, and emotional leverage, all in a desperate effort to create harmony on our own terms. Yet, this controlling effort is the very thing that destroys genuine connection. It creates resistance, resentment, and a facade of compliance that masks a simmering discord. The relationship becomes a negotiated settlement between two separate wills rather than a spontaneous and joyful expression of a shared life. The harmony we crave cannot be engineered by the personal sense of I. It can only be revealed when that I ceases its managerial striving. Even in our spiritual pursuits, the trap awaits. We set goals for enlightenment. We strive to accumulate spiritual experiences. We measure our progress by our ability to manifest certain states of consciousness. We turn the sacred into another achievement, another trophy for the ego to display. This is the most subtle and pernicious form of the trap. for it disguises the activity of the personal self in the very language of transcendence. We are still the door, the striver, the one who seeks to gain something. We have simply swapped worldly ambitions for spiritual ones, but the fundamental mechanism of striving, the belief that something must be acquired by effort, remains intact, ensuring we never discover that which we already and eternally are. The recognition of this trap is not a cause for despair, but the dawn of profound hope. It means the exhaustion you feel from endless striving is not a sign of your failure, but a sign of the failure of the entire paradigm. The constant sense of burden is the weight of a responsibility you were never meant to carry. The doorway to freedom appears the moment you see that the key is not to strive better, but to cease this particular kind of futile effort altogether. This cessation is not a collapse into apathy. It is the most intelligent and active stance one can take. It is the decision to stop digging up the seed, to stop forcing the meditation, to stop managing the relationship. It is the conscious, deliberate withdrawal of the weight of your personal sense from the affairs of your life, making room for an intelligence and a power that does not strive, but knows, that does not struggle, but unfolds with perfect, effortless grace. This conscious withdrawal from striving is not a descent into passivity, it is the activation of a higher faculty. It is the transition from being the frantic architect of your life to becoming the serene witness and the willing instrument of a divine activity. This is the great paradoxy. True power is realized not in doing, but in a specific, sacred kind of inaction, an active receptivity, a state of conscious immersion where the personal will is stilled so that the universal will may flow through unimpeded. It is the difference between a clenched fist, which can only grasp and hold, and an open hand, which can both receive and release. The open hand does nothing, yet it is capable of everything. This is the nature of true action. Imagine you are caught in a powerful river current. Your instinct, born of the personal sense, is to fight against it. You thrash, you struggle, you exhaust yourself trying to swim to a shore you cannot see. This is human effort. Active receptivity is the moment you stop fighting. You turn onto your back, you relax your muscles, and you let the current carry you. You are not passive. You are acutely aware, adjusting your body to float, watching for obstacles, but you are no longer attempting to command the river. You have yielded to a power infinitely greater than your own, and in that yielding, you discover a force that guides you, an intelligence in the current itself that knows the way to the sea. Your only action is to not interfere, to remain receptive to its flow. This is the practice of true action. Apply this to a moment of intense conflict. Someone speaks to you with anger, and the old, automatic reaction of the personal self is to rise in defense, to retaliate, to win the argument. The energy of the encounter is a turbulent, chaotic clash of two separate wills. Now, practice active receptivity. Instead of reacting, you become still inside. You do not retreat mentally or emotionally. You become profoundly present and listen not to the words, but to the silence beneath them. You withhold the impulse of your own personal will to respond. In that space of conscious inaction, something new can emerge. Perhaps a clarity of thought arises that is not your own, a compassionate response, a simple truth that disarms the conflict entirely. You did not craft this response. You became silent enough to hear it. The personal, you, did nothing, yet everything was transformed. This principle operates with perfect precision in the realm of creative or intellectual work. You have a deadline, a project that demands an innovative solution. You have strained at it for days, the pressure building, the mind growing more cluttered and desperate. This is the struggle of the personal mind. The practice of active receptivity is to consciously walk away, to sit in a chair and do nothing, not to scroll through a phone, not to seek distraction, but to consciously be still, to let go of the problem entirely, to release it from the grip of your anxious will. In that space of intentional release, when the personal mind is no longer chewing on the problem, the infinite mind has an opening. The insight, the missing piece, the elegant solution then dawns. Not as a reward for your effort, but as a grace that entered through the silence you created. Your action was the inaction. Your work was the cessation of work. This is not a technique to be used sporadically, but a constant inner orientation. It is a continuous, gentle releasing of the steering wheel of your life. You still go about your day. You drive to work. You prepare meals. You engage in conversation. But you do so from a different center. You perform the task at hand, but you are not the frantic doer behind it. You are the witness, the conscious space in which the activity is occurring. You are listening moment by moment for direction. You are following the intuitive nudge, the spontaneous impulse that arises from a depth beyond thought. This is how life begins to live itself through you. The burden is lifted because you are no longer carrying the entire weight of existence on your personal shoulders. You are a flute, and the divine breath is playing the melody. Your only responsibility is to remain open, clean of the debris of personal will, and receptive to the music. This is the great secret. Your life is not your project to complete. It is a masterpiece being revealed through you, and your highest function is to get out of the way and allow its unfolding. To become this open flute, this conscious witness, requires a fundamental and radical shift in our very seat of consciousness. We must move from the cramped and anxious quarters of the personal sense, from the tyrannical rule of the human mind to the vast and silent realm of pure being. This is not a journey of distance, but of recognition. We are not traveling to a new location, but withdrawing our belief and identity from one perspective and abiding in our true nature as the awareness in which all perspectives appear and disappear. The personal sense, the feeling of being a separate I navigating a hostile world, is the veil that obscures the ever-present reality of our oneness with the infinite. Think of your mind as a lake. The personal sense is the constant churning of the surface. The waves of thought, the storms of emotion, the debris of memory and anticipation. This is the realm of the human mind, a ceaseless activity that believes itself to be the entire lake. Living from this place is like trying to see the bottom of the lake through turbulent, muddy water. You catch only distorted glimpses. Moving beyond the personal sense is the process of allowing the surface of the lake to become still. The sediment settles, the turbulence ceases, and in that profound clarity, you can see all the way to the depths. You realize that your true identity is not the surface agitation, but the entire body of water, the deep, silent, unmoved depth that contains the surface, yet is infinitely more than it. The human mind is the agitated surface, your being is the depth. This plays out with practical urgency in how we experience pain, whether physical or emotional. The human mind, the personal sense, immediately claims ownership of the pain. This is my headache. This is my heartbreak. It then launches a frantic campaign of resistance, worrying about its duration, seeking immediate escape through medication or distraction, weaving stories of victimhood and fear. This identification and resistance amplify the suffering, adding a layer of mental anguish to the raw sensation. Moving beyond the personal sense does not mean you become numb to the sensation. It means you cease to be the person who owns it. You learn to witness the pain as you would witness a storm cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. You feel the sensation, but you do not fuse with it. You are the sky vast and untouched, not the cloud that temporarily drifts through. The sensation may be present, but the suffering, which is the personal mind's reaction to the sensation, dissolves in the light of this impersonal witnessing. Consider a moment of intense fear, perhaps before a public speech or upon receiving alarming news. The human mind, the personal I, is instantly consumed. It races with catastrophic scenarios. It tightens the body. It screams for a way out. This is the prison of personal sense. The movement beyond it begins with a simple, though difficult, act of inner stillness. You feel the fear. You acknowledge its presence, but you refuse to let it become the definition of who you are. You consciously place your attention on the awareness that is aware as of the fear rather than on the fear itself. You discover a space, a silence, behind the frantic noise. From this vantage point, the fear is no longer a monster that has devoured you. It is an object within your field of awareness. It may still be intense, but it no longer has the authority to dictate your reality. You have moved from being the victim of the storm to being the anchor that holds in the midst of it. This is the ultimate freedom. It is not a freedom from the experiences of human life, but a freedom within them. The world continues to present its challenges. The bills arrive, the relationships evolve, the body ages. But you are no longer meeting these events from the small, fragile, and isolated island of your personal self. You are meeting them from the mainland of your true being. The human mind, with its limited resources and its predisposition to fear, is no longer your guide. Instead, you are guided by a wisdom that arises from the silence, an intelligence that knows the next step without a map, a compassion that flows naturally when the personal sense of injury and grievance is absent. You are no longer trying to manipulate the world to suit the preferences of a phantom. You are the boundless space in which the entire drama of life unfolds, and in that realization, you are finally, utterly, and eternally free from its tyranny. When you have moved behind the veil of personal sense and reside as the silent witness, a monumental realization dawns: you are not the author of any good in your life. The profound peace that sometimes visits you, the sudden creative insight that solves an intractable problem, the unexpected healing of a broken relationship, the spontaneous flow of supply that arrives from an unforeseen direction. These are not your creations. They are visitations. They are the evidence of a single, animating principle, a divine actor operating in, through, and as the tapestry of your experience. This is the activity of grace, the soul-transforming power that, when given room, rewrites the narrative of your life from a story of struggle into a hymn of unfoldment. Grace is not a reward for good behavior or correct spiritual practice. It is the fundamental nature of reality itself, the constant loving and intelligent activity of the infinite, forever pressing upon our awareness, waiting for an opening. Our personal efforts, our striving, our attempts to control and manage are like a door we keep tightly shut against this ever-present flow. The practice of conscious inaction, of stilling the human mind, is not about inviting grace in from some distant place. It is simply the act of finally ceasing to bar the door. Grace has always been there, on the other side, and the moment we relax our resistance, it floods the room, not as a foreign force, but as the revelation of what has always been true. Observe this in the miracle of forgiveness. You carry a grievance for years. The personal sense of I has nursed this wound, rehearsed the injustice, and built a fortress of righteous anger. You may even try to make yourself forgive through an act of personal will, but it feels hollow, a superficial layer over a still, seething core. This is human effort. Then, in a moment of quiet, when you are not trying, a shift occurs. It does not feel like something you did. It feels like something that was given. The memory is still there, but the sting is gone. The charge of resentment has simply vanished, replaced by a quiet understanding or a simple indifference. The personal you did not accomplish this. It was the action of grace, dissolving the hardened knot of the personal sense itself. You are left not with an achieved goal, but with a received freedom. Witness this same power in the realm of healing. The body falls ill. The human mind swings into action with fear, researching remedies and striving to fix the condition. This is the realm of personal sense, and it has its place. But true, profound healing often occurs in the spaces between these efforts. It is the deep, restorative sleep that you cannot force. It is the sudden turn for the better that surprises the doctors. It is the body's own intelligence, which you did not create and do not direct, knitting a bone and cleansing an infection. When you release the situation from the grip of your anxious will and rest in the stillness of your being, you are not neglecting the problem. You are aligning yourself with the one power that is the actual source of all healing. You are getting out of the way of the divine physician. The healing that then unfolds is not your doing. It is the natural expression of the life principle that you are. This understanding transforms your entire relationship with the future. The human mind lives in a state of perpetual petition. It prays for specific outcomes, a certain job, a particular partner, a desired amount of money. This is the personal self trying to manage the divine, to direct the flow of grace toward its own limited blueprints. But when you recognize grace as the sole actor, your prayer changes from petition to surrender. It becomes, "Thy will be done." This is not a prayer of resignation, but of supreme intelligence. It is the acknowledgement that an infinite, omniscient mind knows the perfect next step for the unfoldment of the whole, a step your personal mind cannot possibly foresee. You release your specific, detailed blueprints for happiness and instead place your trust in the architect. You may feel an intuitive nudge to make a phone call, to read a certain book, to travel down a certain road. You follow these intuitions, not knowing the final destination, trusting that they are the footprints of grace, leading you to a fulfillment far greater and more fitting than anything your fearful, planning mind could have conceived. Your life ceases to be a project you are building and becomes a mystery you are lovingly and willingly unraveling, guided at every turn by a wisdom that knows the way because it is the way. This conscious alignment with grace, this surrender to the one actor, is not a single event, but the cultivation of a continuous state of being. It is the practice of abiding in our spiritual identity, of living from the unshakable ground of our true nature as the silent witness and willing instrument of the infinite. This is not an abstract philosophy to be understood, but a living reality to be embodied. It is the shift from having occasional spiritual experiences to becoming the very embodiment of the spiritual principle itself. This practice is known as bearing witness, a conscious moment by moment acknowledgement of the divine presence as the only power and the only reality operative in every situation, regardless of appearances. Bearing witness is the active application of our realized identity. It is the conscious decision to see through the veil of the physical senses and the emotional reactions of the personal self to the underlying spiritual truth. When the senses report lack, you bear witness to the infinite and ever-present source of all supply. When the body reports pain or illness, you bear witness to the perfect, whole, and indestructible life of the Christ, the spiritual identity, which is your true being. When a relationship appears to be in conflict, you bear witness to the divine harmony and the one mind operating in, through, and as all individuals. You are not denying the appearance. You are seeing through it to the greater reality that governs it. You are like a lighthouse keeper who, in the midst of a raging storm, keeps the lamp lit. He does not deny the storm, but he bears witness to the light, knowing it is the ultimate truth for any ship seeking the shore. Take a moment of financial anxiety. The bank statement shows a low balance and bills are piling up. The personal sense screams in panic, projecting a future of poverty and failure. The old reaction would be to spiral into fear, to grasp frantically for solutions from a place of lack. The practice of bearing witness is to become still in the midst of this mental storm. You consciously withdraw your belief from the appearance of lack. You turn your attention inward and acknowledge, I bear witness to the infinite substance of the one source. I am not a separate entity trying to get supply. I am an individualization of the divine source itself, and my needs are met from within this infinite reservoir. This is not an affirmation designed to manipulate God. It is a declaration of spiritual fact, a standing firm in the truth of your being. From this centered place, intuitive leads may arise, a creative idea for income, a forgotten resource, a surprising opportunity. But these are the effects of your alignment, not the goal. The goal is to maintain the witness regardless of the outer picture. Apply this to a conflict with a colleague or a loved one. The appearance is one of opposition, of two separate wills clashing. The personal sense feels hurt, angry, and defensive. To bear witness is to pause before reacting. In that sacred pause, you consciously acknowledge, I bear witness to the one divine mind expressing itself as harmony, intelligence, and love in this situation. I see the Christ in this other individual, and I acknowledge it in myself. You are not ignoring their difficult behavior. You are seeing past their personal sense to their spiritual core. This act of bearing witness has a transformative power. It changes the energy you bring to the encounter. It often disarms the conflict because you are no longer feeding it with the energy of a reactive personal self. Solutions emerge that could not have been found on the battlefield of separate egos. This practice extends to the most intimate aspects of your own self-perception. When a wave of guilt, shame, or unworthiness arises from past actions, the personal sense would have you claim it, repent for it, and carry its burden. Bearing witness offers a different path. You look upon that feeling not as a truth about you, but as a cloud passing through the sky of your awareness. You acknowledge, I bear witness to my eternal innocence and purity as a child of God. This sense of guilt is an appearance, a shadow cast by the personal sense, and I see through it to the radiant truth of my being. You do not fight the feeling. You see it for the illusion it is, and in that clear seeing, it loses its power to define you. This is the ultimate practice. It is how the truth you have realized becomes the life you live. You walk through the world, engaging with its forms and challenges, but you do so from the unshakable foundation of your spiritual identity. You are the lighthouse keeper in the storm, the witness in the courtroom of appearances, the open flute for the divine melody. Your entire life becomes a continuous, silent prayer, a constant affirmation of the one presence and one power. You are not seeking to change the world. You are bearing witness to the divine reality that is already and always present within it. And in doing so, you become the very channel through which that reality is made manifest for all to see.